Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl.
Good morning, Speed. Good
Good morning,
morning.
Brain, and good morning, everyone who are going to
Hello, Beena.
us.
Hello, Beena. I
Yes,
like
who
when
is
you
going
say
to
good
join
morning.
us. Join us live and will watch us recorded later. You all are most welcome to join this free space, Moreness free space Syl has created for us. And you can always take maximum advantage as much as you can, really, literally. Yes, you can take advantage here. And without having any guilt, without having any obligation, you can take free advantage. This is the place at least where you can be not only yourself, but you can strive for more. You can aspire to be more. You can look to be more, and you can be more. This is what the Moreness culture is all about. Yesterday, we were talking about how they have, okay, according to my understanding, that was just one perspective, one understanding. Of course, it has multiple perspectives and more depth in it. But I was sharing my perspective on how they love to tease each other and of course, yes, cracking jokes. But their jokes and their teasing is not about mocking someone. It is not about feel them insulted or any derogatory way. It's a pure joy, but also comes with awareness and
Oh, yeah.
responsibility. So yes, they always share something which is with the intent to bring into light what is not really obvious in that situation to
Yeah.
someone, and they
Yes.
bring
And
it to
also,
light that, oh
yeah,
yes, this is what is happening, and then they just like, so they just make you aware of what is not obvious to you, maybe potentially, and also that reminding you of your responsibility. Once you are making some deliberate choices, you are responsible, fully responsible. And this is the idea, basic idea of modern culture, to take complete responsibility of your action, gestures, intents, and everything. So this is what they do. So today, I was thinking about Moreness culture again. It's like, what
oh,
is Moreness culture? So, can you describe it in just two lines?
uh, bonus culture is a culture that is a cooperative, collaborative culture that is built around learning and growing, the enhancement and development of awareness,
And where is
and,
fun?
and sharing,
And
yes.
where is
And
fun?
correct, and supportive and positive. It's non-competitive, right? It's
Hmm.
supportive. Yeah. You're doing this together. You're doing this together, and that's a
Where is
big
the fun
deal.
part in it?
The fun part comes from the learning, the joy.
Hmm. Hmm. Because there's this idea about like, oh, it's all about learning and growing. It comes with kind of a perception that, oh, it's all serious, it's kind of boring, it is going to be not so fun. So, how you describe this?
Because in monosculture, learning is play. That changes everything, right?
Hmm.
So monosculture is always playing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Okay. What is the play there?
Anything you do, I like the teasing sometimes, occasional
Hmm.
teasing. It's
Hmm.
play, right? And it's a form of creativity also, right? So it's to tease creatively, yeah, in a way that's not demeaning, denigrating, derogatory, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Does
So
that
now
make
my
sense?
idea. Oh yes, absolutely making sense. Why I'm asking you and why I actually asked you about where is the fun part? Because in this world, in this conventional paradigm, in this superiority paradigm, mostly where the fun part is coming from is by competition, is by superiority paradigm, competing with each other, putting other people's down, achieving something. The whole idea of fun is based on competition, and our minds are so in tune, entrenched with this idea that we cannot think of fun other than that. Like how it can be fun when you are not competing with each other. This is
Oh,
something very unlikely. to understand that you can have fun. And this is the biggest difference again in that moreness culture. I was just listening, just scrolling through my Instagram, and I just watched a story and a podcast person. I don't know his name, what he was doing, but it was just a short clip edited from the background, from the beginning, and of course from the ending, just a short clip. And he was sharing a story, a wonderful story of two twin babies in the womb of their mother, and they were talking to each other, and they were saying that, okay, oh, what will be the one of them, one of the twin said that, okay, oh, what will be the life after this when we will go out? And the other says, what do you mean by when we will go out? This is the life. And they say, no, but when we will go out, and they say it's an end. So, but why can't you just think of something else? He says, like, what else I can think of? This is the life it is, and then it is going to end just now after we will go out and it will end. The argument keep going, and then they were saying, okay, oh yes, but what if at the other side will be light and energies? He says, but how it is going to be? This is the life we have. What you are thinking is doesn't make any sense at all. And say, but we will see our mother. Say, how can you see that? Where is she? Yeah, but she's all around us. Like how? But I don't see anyone. Say, oh, we will go and out, and then we will make our own food. We will do all these things. Person says, but we will not. We can never get this food, because once we will get cut off this umbilical cord, we will never get food. And that was the idea I was thinking about the mourners culture also, because we are so in tune, we're so trained to think according to the limitedness, to the lackness, that we cannot even imagine that those things can be fun and can be life also. It applies to exactly the same thing, because right now when I'm trying to share my understanding of Moreness culture and still elucidate the Moreness culture, people say, but what about this, like what about this, what about that, what is Moreness, why you are calling it Moreness? We are accepting that we have limited vocabulary, so we cannot give it a new name of it like completely which can actually elucidate. We need to create something, a new word for that, maybe. But in this limited vocabulary, with this, we can say that it's moreness beyond this superiority paradigm. It is
All right.
exactly like when twin babies, they were having a conversation in the womb, and they were saying that, okay, one was trying to explain something, trying to inspire the other that there could be a life after this, which we know that, okay, yes. And when he was saying that, okay, oh, the mother is all around us, and the other was like, I don't see any. And that was like, wow, this is too brilliant to explain that we, with our limited perspectives, with our limited awareness and consciousness, we cannot perfectly, accurately, precisely describe life beyond our right now current situation. We cannot do this because we don't have a vocabulary of that life. We don't have a perception of that life. And that same applies to, in a limited context, it same applies to monos culture. We cannot actually describe this. We cannot elucidate precisely, accurately that what it is until or unless we are going to practice and exercise and experience that. This is what monos culture is for me, and this was my thought of the day. I hope I
Wow,
was not
it's
boring.
beautiful, Beena. It's beautiful. Moreness, Moreness, Moreness. Moreness is it's indefinable, but it's
Yes.
easily understandable. It's so vast.
Perfect.
It's like
Yes.
infinity. Our mind kind of blows, but well, just Moreness is the same thing. It's just
Yes.
positive infinity. All right, let's continue with our reading. We skipped
Oh yes.
yesterday. We
So
had a
for
wonderful live yesterday.
anyone who is joining us now, we are what regularly what we are busy with. We are doing capital R reading of Castaneda's books about Don Juan, And this is something. This is it's a process. Okay, this process of reading, capital R reading, is from, of course, Moreness culture. It is from Way of Impeccability, where
Yeah.
we go beyond incidents, where we go beyond the story itself, where we go and try to connect with the intent, with the energy of sharing.
When we reach in and we extract the moreness, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
We look for it, we find it, we perceive it, we connect to it via implication, extrapolation, figuring out, thinking it through to the end, etc. Bringing your own perspective, your own experience, providing context, all sorts of things go into capital R reading. So you end up with a lot more than what the writing says, right? All right. I'm sharing. Will you read, please, Beena?
Okay, so from where we are starting, from the beginning?
From the top there.
Yes.
Well, we were here yesterday where they were out at the waterhole, or the day before, when last time we did this, right? And he gave
Mhm.
him some power meat, and they were in the waterhole. Don Juan was making a noise, talking loudly, looking to make to connect with the spirit of the waterhole under the heading of being accessible to power. So he's connecting Carlos to power in some way, right?
Hmm.
And he said that he wanted to know about the spirit somewhere. Yeah, he says he asked, but Don Juan didn't want to talk about it. So this is the day after now, right?
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So let's start with this.
Or sometime after, yeah.
Okay. Saturday, 19 August 1961. Yesterday morning, Don Juan and I drove to town and ate breakfast at a restaurant. He advised me not to change my eating habits too drastically.
Your body is not used to power meat. You'd get sick if you didn't eat your food.
He himself ate heartily. When I joked about it, he simply said, "My
My body likes everything.
Around noon, we hiked back to the water canyon. We proceeded to make ourselves noticeable to the spirit by noisy talk and by a forced silence which lasted hours. Wow.
Now,
Okay. When we left the place, instead of heading back to the house, Don Juan took off in the direction of the mountains. We
why did you
reached
say
some.
wow there, Beena?
Okay, it's like, okay, noisy talk and by a forced silence.
It's contrast. It's contrast.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, because if you're just always noisy, you don't necessarily say, hey, I'm different, pay attention to me. And if you're always silent, you don't get noticed either. But the
Right.
contrast, that's likely going to guarantee you getting noticed. And that's the point here. They're looking to get noticed, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's very interesting, right?
Yes. When we left the place, instead of heading back to the house, Don Juan took off in the direction of the mountains. We reached some mild slopes first, and then we climbed to the top of some high hills. There, Don Juan picked out a spot to rest in the open, unshaded area. He told me we had to wait until dusk, and I should conduct myself in the most natural fashion,
So,
which included asking all the questions I wanted.
oh, this is joy for Carlos now. Christmas time.
Yes,
Christmas time.
yes.
By the way, talking about Christmas time, Carlos's birthday is on Christmas Day. Yeah,
Wow.
just point of random interest. Yeah. Uh, I know the spirit is out there lurking. Oh, I know the spirit is out there lurking,
Wait,
out there in the bushes.
what kind of a spirit is it? He looked at me with a quizzical expression and retorted,
You see, yes, the teasing. The teasing is Don Juan's reply. How many kinds are there? Carlos, you have no idea. You don't even believe in spirits, but you want to say, what kind is it? Like, in other words, think about what you're saying. Instead of Don Juan saying, hey, don't ask foolish questions, think about what you're saying first. He
hmm,
teases, you see? a
Hmm.
very gentle way of raising awareness, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's genius. So it's a really good example of explaining what you were talking about as an introduction, right? Your thoughts
Hmm.
of the day, the moreness, from this teasing, which is a very different kind of teasing. And to laugh at Carlos, he laughs at Carlos as foolishly, quite unabashedly. There's nothing nasty or mean in it. He's just amused at the foolishness. And well, like here now, you see now Carlos is learning. You see, look at the next thing there. Please continue, Beena.
Okay, just a minute. I was just
Okay.
adding.
Carlos goes on to say, we both laughed. I was asking questions out of nervousness. In other words, Carlos's laughter is acknowledging the silliness of the question, right? And
Hmm.
it's okay, all right, you're nervous. It's not a big deal, but it's acknowledgement. So the laughter also helps to break the tension, yes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
of the moment. So there's much value to it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. We
But
both
also
laughed.
it shows the Don Juan's sharpness to catch that,
Yes.
to pick up on it, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Uh, we both laughed. I was asking questions out of nervousness.
It'll come out at dusk. We just have to wait a bit.
I remained quiet. I had run out of questions.
This is the time when we must keep on talking.
Yes.
The human voice attracts spirits. There's one lurking out there now. We are making ourselves available to it. So keep on talking.
I experienced an idiotic sense of vacuity.
Yeah,
Vacuity. I could
vacuity.
not
Yeah,
think. Yeah. I could not think of anything to say. He laughed and patted me on the back.
you're truly a pill. When you have to talk, you lose your tongue. Come on, beat your gums.
he made he made a hilarious gesture of beating his gums
Yeah,
together,
something like that.
opening and closing his mouth with great speed.
There are certain things we will talk about from now on only at places of power. I have brought you here because this is your first trial. This is a place of power. And here we can talk only about power.
I really don't know what power is.
Power is something a warrior deals with. At first, it's an incredible, far fetched affair. It is hard to even think about it. This is what's happening to you now. Then power becomes a serious matter. One may not have it. One may not even fully realize it exists. Yet one knows something is there. Something which was not noticeable before. Next, power is manifested as something uncontrollable, comes to oneself. It is not possible for me to say how it comes or what it really is. It is nothing, and yet it makes marvels appear before your very eyes. And finally, power is something in oneself, something that controls one's acts and yet obeys one's command.
There was a short pause. Don Juan asked me if I had understood. I felt ludicrous saying I did. He seemed to have noticed my
Ludicrous.
dismay and chuckled.
I'm going to teach you right here the first step to power.
He said as if he were dictating a letter to me.
I am going to teach you how to set up dreaming.
He looked at me and again asked me if I knew what he meant. I did not. I was hardly following him at all. He explained that to set up dreaming meant to have a concise and pragmatic control over the general situation of a dream, comparable to the control one has over any choice in the desert, such as climbing up a hill or remaining in the shade of a water canyon. Okay,
You must
so wait.
start by doing something very simple. Tonight in your dreams, you must look at your hands.
I laughed out loud. His tone was so factual that it was as if he were telling me to do something commonplace.
Why do you laugh?
He asked with surprise, how can I look at my hands in my dreams?
Very simple. Focus your eyes on them like this.
He bent his head forward and stared at his hands,
Oh,
his
I did.
mouth open.
I get the. Okay, there you go. After that, yeah.
His gesture was so comical that I had to laugh. Seriously, how can you expect me to do that?
The way I've told you. You can, of course, look at whatever you got and please, your toes or your belly or your pecker for that matter. I said your hands because that was the easiest thing for me to look at. Don't think it's a joke. Dreaming is as serious as perceiving or dying or any other thing in this awesome, mysterious world. We get to see a little bit here of Don Juan's broader cosmology. Yes, I call it that because philosophy is too weak a word for it. How his understanding of the universe, in other words, which includes philosophy, psychology, strategy, all sorts of things. Yeah, but also the component elements of the world. Yeah, so in Don Juan's world, and dreaming is a very serious business. It's as serious as capital P perceiving, which is the perception of energy directly, or dying, which is a big deal. It's not just right. There's a whole lot involved in dying, or any other thing in this awesome, mysterious one. One. Yes.
Yes. Continue, please.
Think about it as something entertaining. Imagine all the inconceivable things you could accomplish. A person hunting for power has almost no limits in their.
I asked him to give me some pointers.
There aren't any pointers. Just look at your hands.
There must be more that you could tell me.
All right. So
I
he
said.
could say there, all right, set the intent to look at your hands in your dreams.
"Mm,
Develop the desire to do so. And trust your body, trust your brain, trust all your different brains. Yeah. Trust yourself, all the different parts of yourself to
mm,
materialize, to put into action your intent, your desire. The trick is to
yes.
want it. The trick is to want something which you cannot see value to. They can only intend it. Right? And you can
Mm,
only trust. This is why capital T trust is such a big deal.
yeah.
Every one of us is the what you call go ahead.
No, I was just thinking because this is the same thing was really uh, kind of like bothering. I must not say that, but that was bothering me when I was trying to understand Zen, Zen philosophy, Zen way of thinking, whatever you want to call it, or Zen way of being. When I was trying to understand that, that was the thing really bothering me. That why to keep things
Yeah.
vague and
Vague. Yeah.
yes, and why don't they have or use precise as much as like they can precise vocabulary and analogies. So and they were kind of like I was feeling that it's a superiority paradigm which they feel that oh you fool, you cannot understand that. No, of course they were not saying it directly, but the whole the by implication it means that this is you are a fool, you cannot understand Zen.
Right.
So it
Right.
was like
Right.
it's like untouchables there, and it's an
Yes.
untouchable kind of a thing which not everyone can be there, and that was
Yeah.
really puzzling me big time. And I had a like conversation about this whole idea with my friend, and he's very much into Zen, and I was like, but why? And that's it. See, again, you are asking questions. So like I was that's why I was from the beginning I'm feeling a bit concerned or like okay yes some um, feeling pity or you can say that some care about towards Carlos
Yeah.
because what he is, from where he is coming from, exactly like aliens, from where he's coming from, he has a completely different understanding. There is
Oh yeah.
nothing,
Oh yeah.
there is nothing in our world like Don Juan's world. And at that point, when Carlos was a complete noob there, and then he had no idea that how these things can be, and of course, so what he was trying to understand was just power plants, and then Don Juan came in with his completely different paradigm.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Now,
sometimes when he asks foolish questions, I feel like, oh God,
yes. Yes.
like yes, it is
Beena,
foolish, but now, yes,
yeah. Now, there is something that
yes.
we well, at least in Moreness culture, we tend to take for granted, and that is the skill of elucidation, and particularly elucidating via conceptuality.
Hmm.
When it's done, when you hear it, it's like, well, duh, and it, okay, okay, I get it, I understand. However, it, we make the mistake of assuming because it's so self-explanatory, it's so duh, it is commonplace. It is not.
Hmm.
Conceptuality and thinking that way, it just does not exist anywhere else.
Hmm.
It's a new thing. Even here with Don Juan now, if he were to want to communicate this to Carlos, you get into the conceptuality, you have to look at the psychology of rationalization and justification, right? So Carlos wants pointers. If Don Juan said, look, you're going into a new situation, like let's say you go to a new country,
Hmm.
and you say, well, you want some pointers. Okay, if somebody's been there before, they can maybe tell it to you. But if somebody is from that country and they only speak that language, they can tell you everything they want. It's not going to make any sense to you. In other words, when you're going into a completely new situation where there is no way to guide you, you have to go by trust.
See,
Not just trust
see,
in the person, but trust in the
e-
universe. Trust in
exactly.
yourself.
See,
See?
you have this idea. This is the concept we need.
Exactly. Capital T, trust. That's why I said not just trust in the person or the place or the situation or yourself, but trust in the universe. What is that trust? You've been impeccable. You've done everything you can. You're living via attunement. Is this going to this country coming to you via attunement? If yes, then you can proceed with confidence. If no, then you have to be very cautious because now you don't know this is the right thing to do. But it came to you by the universe, via attunement. Now you know it's the right thing to do. Yeah?
Hmm.
And you do all your homework. Yes, you do as much as you can ahead of time. In this case, there's no preparing for it. You have to go into it and do. Yeah? You're learning to become aware of a new reality. You are starting as a baby coming into the new world. What did you do as a baby? Well, you stared at your hands pretty much. You sucked on your thumb. You became aware of yourself, right? Likely via your hands. So the hands is a very good idea here because it connects you, right? Your hands are you. Look, we express, we talk. So our hands are in our awareness of our body. We don't look down at the rest of our body all that often, right? But our hands are, even if we're not looking at them, they're here, right? When you talk about them, you're aware of them in your awareness. So it's just a technique. It's just a technique. They said you can look at anything. The key is not the looking. The key is the intent to look. The key is the intent to become aware that you are dreaming. Yeah? In many ways to do it. Like some people say you can't do certain things in a dream. I don't know, like put a light switch on. You go to a light switch and you put it on off, nothing happens. Oh, I'm dreaming. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff like that, right? Where people have gone into this and they make a point of it, right? But it doesn't matter. The key is the intent. The key is the intent, and the key is wanting to do it, and that's difficult. That's difficult to accomplish. Yeah, make sense, Bina?
Yes, yes. Do you have a call?
I do.
Yes.
Let's stop ringing now. Oh. Hello? Oh, go ahead, Beena. You read. You read. Ignore me.
Okay. Okay. Seriously, how can you expect me to do that? I asked. The way I have told you, he snapped. You can, of course, look at whatever you. Okay, so this one I have read already. I asked him to give me some pointers. There aren't any pointers. Just look at your hands. There must be more that you could tell me, I insisted. He shook his head and squinted his eyes, staring at me in short glances. Every one of us is different, he finally said. What you call pointers would only be what I myself did when I was learning. We're not the same. We aren't even vaguely alike. Maybe anything you'd say would help me. It would be simpler for you just to start looking at your hands.
There you go. There
He
you go.
seemed
Just
to
do it,
be.
Carlos. Just do it. See, this is Carlos's problem. Because he lives in an intellectual world, he equates intellectualizing with doing. They are one and the same to him, but they aren't.
Yes.
Conceptualizing, once again.
Yes, but this is how we are. We learned it
At
very
some
very
point, you have to do, and there's
young.
no thinking about it. There's no having. When you get on the bicycle, you do. That's it. You know.
Hmm. He seemed to be organizing his thoughts and bobbed his head up and down.
I like it. Every time you look at anything in your dreams, change your state. The trick in learning to set up dreaming is obviously not just to look at things, but to sustain the sight of them. Dreaming is real when one has succeeded in bringing everything into focus. Then there is no difference between what you do when you sleep and what you do when you are not sleeping. Do you see what I mean?
I
All right. So this
confess
point
that.
of things going out of focus.
Hmm.
This is because we haven't learned the trick yet of sustaining it. Because it's new, we stare at it, and when you stare, you immerse, and then the thing fades. Right? Whereas you probably can do the same thing in this life too. If you stare too long at things, they also start to disperse. Right? Your eyes go out of focus or whatever. Right? You can get that same immersion, except we so learned that it's very hard to acquire that in this world. But in dreams, you haven't learned that reality's rules yet. You haven't familiarized it, so it's very easy for things to jump out like that. Right? You have to touch lightly in dreams, and we're used to touching heavily and grabbing onto things. So it's a different psychology that's needed there, a different mindset, different way of being. Yeah. All
the,
right,
the,
please
the, pro-
continue, Vina.
the
Go.
problem is that the basic understanding of dreaming, we have a false definitions of dreams, and
It's
and, and
capital
it,
D
it
dreaming.
yes, but it caused a lot of problem for us to the having flaws in basic understanding, basic definition of things. Because like whatever I have been seeing, because you always say, oh, I saw a dream, okay, or I had a dream. You never say that I experienced something. It has to be like I experienced something. So then if we will change our language, we will have a different understanding of what dreams are actually.
Right, right.
So they are
We look at
happenings.
dreams kind of like we do movies, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, the dream comes and we experience it like watching a movie. All right, we kind of involved in it, so it's a bit of a 3D movie or a virtual reality movie, but
Mhm.
it's still coming to us and we a participant. But that's the point that Don Juan is saying. You can now start to become the writer of this movie, the director of the movie, and the actor in the movie, right?
Because
At this point in time, you're only the actor,
what
right?
how Don Juan is saying, just look at your hands, is not getting
Yeah,
into. I assume again, it is my own understanding, could be totally wrong. That
yeah,
what Carlos was thinking, like it is impossible because in dreams they just happened without
right.
being an active participant in it.
Yeah,
So I cannot do this. How can you are asking me to look at my hands because I am not going to be aware
right. So how do
of
you do things which are ordinarily unavailable to you or impossible to do?
Okay, what Don Juan is saying that actually just be at the threshold or a portal, just right in the center of it, where you can utilize your abilities of this conventional normal world, and
Yeah.
also have experience to and can experience in that dream world. So what he's saying that okay, we are able enough, not going completely into dreams, because he's not saying that okay, oh, you are going to articulate your dreams like really doing some creating something, no, but the dreams, you have to understand that, so it is kind of like getting your power from the unknown, at least to Carlos.
To be more, let's really use language of conceptuality here, right?
Yes,
What
please.
is the, if we conceptualize this, what is looking at hands accomplishing? Looking at hands is the technique. He said you can look at anything, so don't get stuck on the hand spot. But what are you trying to do? Again, clarity of intent. You are intending to become aware that you are dreaming. So we're in the dream, we kind of aware, but we're not aware that we are aware. That's the trick. Because we know we're dreaming when we're dreaming, sort of, kind of, right? But we
Yes.
just go along with it. We don't question it. We just accept it. And that reality is completely acceptable. So essentially, what we are looking to do is become aware of the awareness. That awareness that's not really an awareness, which means we are in real essence, we are going to question it and say, oh, you know what, is this a reality I wish to accept, or just be a part of, right? Be a, just like be a leaf in the wind. No, I want to have some control over this, not be at the
Yes.
mercy of this. In other words, I don't want to just be the actor in this movie. Yeah. I want to be, or like an extra, really. We're not even actors, we're extras. We just have to go and do, don't even think about it, right? I don't want to just be so unaware. I want to be aware of what it is I'm doing so that I can choose. That's the real crux. So this act of deliberation of looking at something, whether it be your hands or your feet or anything, I mean, just you can't say look at the hills because there might not be hills in your dream, but your hands are likely always going to be there. Your feet, not necessarily. Yeah. So
Yes.
the what maybe, but still, right? But your hands are easy to look at, and it's something that's a constant. And in doing this, we are now saying we are going to stop this, the wind, and we are going to say, "Whoa, wait a second! I'm doing this act of deliberation," and that is the intent of dreaming that needs to change. The one of just acceptance and going along with it, to saying, "No, I want to deliberately do this," right?
Yes.
And the only way you can do that is to really set the intent. And the problem with intent, of course, is you have to want it, you have to desire it. When I did want it very badly, I did succeed, even though it was exceedingly difficult for me, at least. For others, it was much easier. Different people are set up differently. Um, but, you know, it can be done, you know, definitely can be done. So it's very powerful, very interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so the key is to understand this from a clarity of intent point of view, right? The intent is to be aware that you are dreaming, to be have a double awareness, and
Yes.
also to be to control your emotions. Mood management is very critical in dreaming. You get all excited, you wake up. Okay, so you
Oh.
have to learn to be kind of chill and observe at first. To familiarize yourself because it's all new. So we are becoming aware, but we cannot apply the same rules of behavior in dreaming that we do in this life. In other words, we have to also develop simultaneously different ways of being. It's part of Moreness culture is developing different ways of being. Dreaming is a fantastic way to be. Yeah? Because you're
Yes.
learning really to have more control over yourself. And not control in a tight lockdown sense, more ability to have more variety of option at your disposal. the opposite of narrow. It's very wide and broad, right? It's very free. Yes. If you only always are able to be in one way, if the situation changes, well, then you get stuck. There are many animals, right? The environment
Hmm.
changes, they can't adapt and they die. When they don't need to die, happens all the time. Their instincts can't adapt. They just have to do the same thing all the time. It's fascinating. All right, please
Oh,
continue, Beena. Yeah, very
I
powerful stuff here.
confess.
Very powerful stuff.
Yeah. I confess that although I understood what he had said, I was incapable of accepting his premise. I brought up the point that in a civilized world, seriously, in a civilized world, there were scores of people who had delusions and could not distinguish what took place in the real world from what took place in their fantasies. I said that such persons were undoubtedly mentally ill, and my uneasiness increased every time he would recommend I should act like a crazy man. Wow.
Here we come to Carlos finally articulating what I've said, before. Carlos's fear. Yes, this fear of being crazy. In our world today, because psychotherapy has become commonplace, mental illness has been separated from crazy, and it's become much destigmatized. And everybody goes to the therapist. Okay, it's not an issue anymore, right? But back at that time, if you had said in polite society, "Oh, I'm going to a therapist," oh my God, that would have been the end of the world, and people would think you're crazy, and it would be a very terrible thing, and it'd be a big stigma, and it just would be drama, right? So there was this big fear of being crazy. It had become this serious big issue, and here we always see Carlos articulating this now, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So, Carlos, Don Juan, read the next thing there.
Okay. After my long explanation, Don Juan made a comical gesture of despair by putting his hands to his cheeks and sighing loudly.
Leave your civilized world alone. Let it be. Nobody's asking you to behave like a madman. I've already told you. A warrior has to be perfect in order to deal with the powers he hunts. How can you conceive a warrior would not be able to tell things apart? On the other hand, you, my friend, who know what the real world is, would fumble and die in no time at all if you would have to depend on your ability for telling what is real and what is not. Right? Carlos has got a belief, and this belief, which has generated this idea in him, is now it is a root concept, a base. Yes, and when you have a root concept or a foundation starting point, that and you build upon that, you can develop an incredible structure, and it can all make sense later on, but it's all fragile because it's based on actually nothing, because the root concept is flawed. It's a non it can't be, it's an impossibility, it doesn't exist, right? But this
Yeah.
is a problem with beliefs and thinking. People start off with a belief they assume to be true, and they build these edifices on it, and it's the whole thing is a whole lot of nonsense because the root is inaccurate. No matter how logically you proceed, from in your imaginary building, well, floor 23 comes after floor 22, and it's all, doesn't matter how logical it's up there. It's all based on nothing. It's an imaginary building. It's not real. Right? And this is what Carlos is doing here now, right? He can't let it go. So to me, in a communication point of view, to say, okay, let's not look at this as doing something that's crazy. Let's look at it as exploring something and doing something which the known world that does not yet know about. Is going to be a pioneer in new development, extending consciousness. You have to find whatever language works. Oh, okay, now we are extending consciousness. All right, well, cool. And
Yeah.
it's just a matter of the labeling to find something that's acceptable to the person, right? As long as it's associated in Carlos's world with doing something crazy, well, let's not make it crazy. Let's make it really sensible. Exploring consciousness. Isn't this what, to you, your interest in psychedelics is all about? Yeah? Oh, what's the difference?
Hmm.
Same thing. Just conceptualizing appropriately, and then managing the association. Ridiculously powerful. All right, please continue, Beena. Where?
Leave your, okay, this was yours. Leave your
Oh, I
civilization.
obviously I said, uh, yeah, that's where you need to go.
Okay, okay. I obviously had not expressed what I really had in mind. Every time I protested, I was simply voicing the unbearable frustration of being in an untenable position.
I'm not trying to make you into a sick, crazy man. You can do that yourself without my help. But the forces which guide us brought you to me. And I have been endeavoring to teach you to change your stupid ways and live the strong, clean life of a hunter. Then the forces guided you again and told me you should learn to live the impeccable life of a warrior. Apparently you can't. But who can tell? We are as mysterious and as awesome as this unfathomable world. So who can tell what you're capable of?
There was an underlying tone of sadness in Don Juan's voice. I wanted to apologize, but he began to talk again.
You don't have to look at your hands. Like I've said, pick anything at all. But pick one thing in advance and find it in your dreams. Set the intent. I said your hands because they'll always be there. When they begin to change shape, now is adding step two, right? Step one, find your hands. What do you do when you find your twos? This is it. When your hands begin to change shape, when they start to fade and dissolve, right? You must
Yes,
move your sight away from them and pick something else. And then look at your hands again. So your hands start, you look away, you come back. Look away, come back. Look away, come back. Okay?
yes,
It's a way of stabilizing the world, right? And then
yes,
look at your hands again. It takes a long time to perfect this technique. It takes discipline, yes, and forbearance also. It's
yes.
not easy.
I had become so involved in writing that I'm sorry, I had become so involved in writing, I had not noticed it was getting dark. The sun
Brilliant.
had already disappeared over the horizon. The sky was cloudy and the twilight was imminent. Don Juan stood up and gave uh, furtive,
Further,
furtive, furtive,
further.
furtive glances towards the south.
Let's go. We must walk south until the spirit of the waterhole shows itself.
We walked for perhaps half an hour. The terrain changed abruptly and we came to a barren area. There was a large round hill where the chaparral had burned. It looked like a bald head. We
Bald.
walked to it. Bald head. We walked towards it. I thought that Don Juan was going to climb the mild slope, but he stopped instead and remained in a very attentive position. His body seemed to have tensed as a single unit and shivered for an instant. Then he relaxed again and stood limply. I could not figure out how his body could remain erect while his muscles were so relaxed. Wow. At that moment, a very strong gust of wind jolted me. Don Juan's body turned in the direction of the wind, towards the west. He did not use his muscles to turn, or at least he did not use them the way I would use mine to turn. Don Juan's body seemed rather to have been pulled from the outside. It was as if someone else had arranged his body to face a new direction. I kept on staring at him. He looked at me from the corner of his eye. The expression on his face was one of determination, purpose. All of his being was attentive, and I stared at him in wonder. I had never been in any situation that called for such a strange concentration. Suddenly his body shivered as though he had been splashed by a sudden shower of cold water. He had another jolt, and then he started to
No, no,
walk as if
no.
nothing happened. I followed him. We flanked the naked hills on the east side until we were at the middle part of it. He stopped there, turning to face the west. From where we stood, the top of the hill was not so round and smooth as it had seemed to be from the distance. There was a cave or a hole near the top. I looked at it fixedly because Don Juan was doing the same. Another strong gust of wind sent a chill up my spine. Don Juan turned towards the south and scanned the area with his eyes.
Hey,
There, oh yes, please.
no, continue. I'm saying there. You must read the rest.
Oh, okay, he said in a whisper and pointed to an object on the ground. I strained my eyes to see. There was something on the ground, perhaps 20 feet away. It was light brown, and as I looked at it, it shivered. I focused all my attention on it. The object was almost round and seemed to be curled. In fact, it looked like a curled up dog. Yes, sir?
Oh, it's you.
Oh, what is it? Okay, sorry. What is it? I whispered to Don Juan.
I don't know.
He whispered back as he peered at the object.
What does it look like to you?
I told him that it seemed to be a dog.
Too large for a dog.
He said matter of factly. I took a couple of steps towards it, but Don Juan stopped me gently. I stared at it again. It was definitely some animal that was either asleep or dead. I
Hmm.
could almost see its head. Its ears protruded, like the ears of a wolf. By then, I was definitely sure it was a curled up animal. I thought that it could have been a brown calf. I whispered to Don Juan. He answered it was too compact to be a calf because its ears were pointed.
Besides, here's the point.
Besides, its ears were pointed. The animal shivered again, and then I noticed it was alive. I could actually see it was breathing, yet it did not seem to breathe rhythmically. The breaths that it took were more like irregular shivers. I had a sudden realization at that moment. It's an animal that is dying, I whispered to Don Juan.
Right. But what kind of animal?
I could not make out of its specific features. Don Juan took a couple of cautious steps towards it. I followed him. It was quite dark by then, and we had to take two more steps in order to keep the animal in view.
Watch out. If it is a dying animal, it may leap at us with its last strength.
The animal, whatever it was, seemed to be on its last legs. Its breathing was irregular, its body shook spasmodically, but it did not change its curled up position. At a given moment, however, a tremendous spasm actually lifted the animal off the ground. I heard an inhuman shriek, and the animal stretched its legs. Its claws were more than frightening, they were nauseating. The animal tumbled on its side after stretching its leg and then rolled on its back. I heard a formidable growl and Don Juan's voice shouting.
Yes.
And that was exactly what I did. I scrambled towards the top of the hill with unbelievable speed and agility. When I was halfway to the top, I looked back and saw Don Juan standing in the same place. He signaled me to come down. I ran down the hill. What happened? I asked, completely out of breath.
I think the animal is dead.
We advanced cautiously towards the animal. It was sprawled on its back. As I came closer to it, I nearly yelled with fright. I realized that it was not quite dead yet. The body was still trembling, its leg, which were sticking up in the air, shook wildly. Animal was definitely in its last gasp.
Yeah. We missed a full stop there. Its body was still trembling, right?
Yes, yes.
Its legs, which were sticking up wildly, supplied. All right.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I walked in front of Don Juan. A new jolt moved the animal's body, and I could see its head. I turned to Don Juan, horrified. Judging by its body, the animal was obviously a mammal. Yet it had a beak, like a bird. Oh my God. Oh, I stared at it in complete and absolute horror. My
I
mind
just need to
raced.
pause here.
Yes.
Carlos, tell me why, please, that you did not stare at it in fascination and curiosity. Why horror?
Hmm. Yeah.
We do things out of default and we just accept that, well, it's the way to do things and we accept it sensible and right. But yet, when we think about it, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, why not be fascinated? I mean, this is something completely new. Yeah, it's like, wow, this is fascinating. This is incredible. It's as appropriate. It doesn't mean that you mustn't be cautious. Yeah, it's obviously a predator, right? Got a beak. Yeah, okay, well, might not be, but likely that kind of a beak. It's for ripping things, tearing things, but it could be for opening up nuts or something. So it could be, not a predator. You don't know, but still, doesn't mean that you must throw away caution if you're fascinated. Why must you be horrified? Horrified shuts your brain down.
Hmm.
Fascinated opens your brain, makes you alert, attentive, observant. Yes,
Yes.
and and the one thing with horrified, it takes away any connectivity and awareness of opportunity. All moreness goes out of the window, right?
Yes.
Is when you're fascinated, you're now paying attention, you're open, you're looking to understand, to observe, right? To figure it out. And if there is opportunity, you'll notice much better default. Yeah?
Yes.
All right. Let's stop right here. Yeah.
Okay.
And we continue because now this is going to be a whole thing, you see? Yeah. So
Yes.
we'll continue here tomorrow, with this with ahead now, right? Yeah. Continue right here.
Okay.
Ah, most wonderful, being the most wonderful. On that point also, to change the default, to not to be horrified at the unusual. Why? Is there any reason this thing is horrible? It may be, some alien creature that is very kind and very generous and, very, very loving. It just as a body that's a legacy body. Yeah,
Yeah, but okay.
you don't
If
know.
I don't know anything, but if I would be at Carlos' place, I would immediately look at my hands.
That would have been very appropriate to do right there.
Yes. I would immediately do
That
that
would have been very appropriate to do. Yeah, yeah.
because
Uh, Very
because
good
when
idea.
things yeah when things are not actually into
The
in
usual, correct.
yes
Yeah,
in the usual, then why
yeah.
not check something which actually
Right,
been in conversation. This is what
right,
exactly Don Juan was telling you.
right,
So
right.
just uh, just look at your hands and then
Yeah.
see that, because it will not only that, okay, it will give you a position of detachment. You will not be in that situation anymore. You will disconnect yourself
Oh,
from that. Even if you would be not dreaming, like, okay, oh yes, okay, yeah, it's not dreaming. Okay, now what? So now the situation will change. So because
there you
now
go.
I'm not,
There
yeah,
you
I'm
go.
not into those under the influence of those emotions and overwhelm and
Right,
fear and all that.
right, right,
Disconnecting
right.
myself from any situation like this or any
Yeah,
overwhelming situation is the key to get empowerment again, to get
yeah,
your power
yeah,
back. Disconnect yourself. That's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know it
Beena,
was going to. Yes.
there's a premise in your statement there, right? This
Yes.
premise of the usual.
Yes.
We
Yes. Yes.
believe in the usual, and it's a premise, but the usual is something that is artificial,
Yes.
and that's the key to dreaming, to realize. And in that situation, when you become accessible to power, you start to realize the usual is something that is created. It's There is no usual. There is no such thing. This is a complete, it's not a myth, but it's an artificiality that's come about simply through habit. We've taken a small portion of possibility, and we created, and we say, oh, this is the usual, and this is all there is. And look at Carlos's reality. That's all there is. In Don Juan's reality, he says, no, wait a second, there's more. And yeah, he's making him aware of more. It's simply being aware that more exists is power.
Yes.
Right? Once you're
Yes.
convinced that there's more to the world than what we perceive, now you're on a journey into moreness, and everything changes. Before you wrap up, Ina, I just want to say hello to David Sparks or Davy Sparks. Either way, you can let me know, David Sparks, which way it is. Is it Davy Sparks or Davis Sparks?
Oh yes, we had
Had
them.
him yesterday,
Yes. Yes.
the day before, yeah. So,
Yes.
and
It's good to see you again. Welcome to Moreness
yeah,
Culture.
oh yeah, I know. Very good to have you again. And then we've got Mikai Lagome also joined us. So hello to you guys. Yeah, yeah, very cool. You just joined now, but we're about to end, so you came right at the end. But David Sparks has been here for a little while. So brilliant, 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 brilliant. Very cool. All right, we'll see you guys again. Maybe tomorrow, likely Friday. Because tomorrow we do the Moreness show, and it's difficult for us to do both at the same time. So the Moreness show, you can just search for the Moreness show or go to nobelia.org. You'll find it there. Many places, YouTube, all over the place. All right. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Please pay attention to your online algorithm because ultimately, this is exactly like your life algorithm. Make deliberate choices. This is how you are going to write your future. Bye for
Exactly.
now.
Look at Carlos. Don Juan is really trying to get Carlos to update and adjust and upgrade his algorithm. His algorithm is very limited. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very powerful. All right. Bye bye, everybody.